We have lost nobody to coronavirus in the United States.
Breaking news. The first death from coronavirus here in the United States.
Don't infect me. You don't have a right to infect me.
In every corner of the country, Americans have been rolling up their sleeves today.
So everyone everywhere in the world who's getting this vaccine is a guinea pig.
That I feel extreme confidence in the safety and the efficacy of this vaccine.
Everyone getting it is helping the virus become deadly.
I've taken the vaccines. I trust the vaccines. I'm married to a scientist. I believe in the science.
No, I'm never going to take the vaccine.
Why do I want somebody to push something onto me and not?
I'm perfectly healthy and fine. We're not going to die from it. And you know what? If we do, then it was our time to go because we believe in God.
We are part of the solution. We are ending this epidemic now.
My name is Del Bigtree. I'm the host of an internet talk show called The High Wire. I'm also the CEO of a nonprofit called the Informed Consent Action Network. I see myself as a journalist. I recognize that the work that I've done to investigate the safety of vaccines is probably more prolific and profound than any journalist has ever embarked upon. My trigger is always journalistic. What is the truth, right? Where do you find the truth? The thing I was taught and that I believe about journalism is my job is not to accept the narrative just because it's the narrative. I don't care if it's an expert. I don't believe that words are actually dangerous to people's minds. I think that people have the ability to take in different points of view and come to their own conclusions. We took on a brand new experiment, and that experiment was, can we hide from a virus? It was an experiment. Can we do it? We tried, we failed. As it turns out, you can't hide from a virus. The only road to herd immunity right now is to catch the wild virus. And therefore, we've got to march as many of our healthy people in to do that we know won't be at risk, but to destroy everybody's lives, including the healthy that are at no risk, while we wait for a product and in fact force a brand new technology to be rushed into the population, I think will go down as the greatest scientific blunder in the history of mankind.
It's Dr. Stu's podcast with me, your host, Dr. Stuart Fishbein, community-based practicing obstetrician and longtime advocate for birth choices. The main topic was going to be the coronavirus vaccine in women of reproductive age, but boy, did we go off topic. The podcast is a great format for getting unedited viewpoints out there. It's something that we can control from start to finish. It's going to upset some people. It's going to rock the apple cart, so to speak. The whole point of our First Amendment is to be able to speak things that people don't like to hear. And there's nothing in the First Amendment that says it has to be true. But if you wanted to spew hatred, you had the right to spew hatred. It's why a lot of doctors don't speak out against some of the things that are going on in my profession, because if you stick your head up, you could get it lopped off. And we look forward to keeping you entertained and educated. And until next time, this has again been Dr. Stu's podcast number 204.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Kedron, Vex 2. Good to see you again.
Thank you so much again.
I really appreciate that.
My second dose today.
Thank you. Okay, and then Karen, todo bien? We're all good? Kathy, we're all good? We are not, in medicine especially, afraid of vaccines. If that was the case, you would not have seen doctors and nurses and healthcare workers line up begging for a shot in those early days when Moderna and Pfizer became available. Very good. All Moderna? Thank you. 1.2 plus million became eligible for vaccines. Those are teachers, daycare workers, police officers, firemen, first responders, agriculture, food service. So things are happening very fast in a very short amount of time. So it wasn't a choice. We were dying from COVID. Laura, you have enough? Moderna? Very good. Vax 1, Daniel, you're all good. Come on through.
And this is a problem we're seeing around the world. You know, Russian trolls and bots are being accused of spreading misinformation about vaccines as well.
Some people demonstrating against the coronavirus measures have compared themselves to the Jewish victims of the Holocaust.
False theory linking the 5G network to the spread of the virus.
Is this 5G?
And telecommunication workers were targeted.
That's how the coronavirus is spreading. Wuhan, China, they put up 10,000 of these, and then people started getting sick.
I've taken the vaccines. I trust the vaccines. I'm married to a scientist. I believe in the science. On the other hand, I do understand why people have or are reticent of believing in a lot of these major institutions. Fake news plays a really influential role in U.S. society and in the world at large. Right? It's nothing new. I think really kind of new about fake news is the ways in which like social media and digital technologies amplify it. There's like thousands of people on the other side of the screen who've designed it in a way using a lot of like methods from like the gambling industry to keep you addicted to your screen. So they're playing to lower human emotions. They're trying to confirm things you already believe, and these things keep you on your screen and keep you giving data, right? And so we're at this place where folks who deny the vaccine or the effectiveness of the vaccine or believe in these conspiracies that Bill Gates has created the virus so he can make profits of the vaccine or whatever it may be. Your search results and your social media feed will continue to reinforce that. And if it does bring your attention to people who disagree with that, it will be done in a divisive way. You know, I like to point out that there's nothing really social about social media. Instead, it's a place where we can learn to like divide and hate and disagree. So that's kind of the danger in the fake news problem, is you can have good people doing horrible things for what they believe are good reasons.
For the most part, the large groups of people, the millions of people that talk about me, as far as I know, most of them support and love the work that I do. I believe mainstream media is essentially propaganda. I think that they are clearly working for their sponsors. Because if they tell a balanced story that goes against Merck or Pfizer, Sanofi Aventis, or Exxon, or Pampers, that those sponsors say, we're going to pull millions and millions of dollars out of your organization if you don't change that narrative.
I don't really like the one-man show. I'm just doing my job. I'm helping people get vaccinated. Welcome to Ketron. I think people really think that these are like some conspiracies, you know? And I'm telling you, someone who's at the table, someone who's involved in conversations at the federal government level, the CDC level, the state level, the governor's office, I have never seen anyone say, how can we get everyone vaccinated for some other means except for to end this epidemic? That is what we're committed to. That is what we're trying to do. And that is the truth. And I hope that the truth will set us all free, especially from some of the attacks we've received from anti-vaxxers and others.
Breaking news into CNN. CDC Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky just signed off on the Johnson & Johnson coronavirus vaccine for emergency use.
Top scientists came out and said this vaccine is going to massively kill old people.
After you've had the vaccine, you could think you're doing fine. All of a sudden, you come in contact with coronavirus and you drop dead in the street because it made the coronavirus deadly.
These anti-vaxxers believe they have this secret knowledge that the world's top scientists don't know. Like, we know it and they don't.
I look forward to getting the second vaccine, and literally, this is about saving lives. It's literally about saving lives. I trust the scientists.
I work at two organizations called Children's Health Defense Florida. Robert F. Kennedy is actually the chair of Children's Health Defense. There is a profound movement that is happening across the globe. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has been a phenomenal advocate within our movement and really helped us really broaden and reach, not only just in particular in the state of Florida, but globally. You know, when you look at the 4 to 5 major manufacturers of vaccines, every single one of them has been convicted of felonies. I think if somebody sat there and said, I'm going to do this for the greater good, we'd call that nowadays virtual signaling, right? But I think that's their choice to make that decision. I am not going to put myself in a position to set myself potentially on fire to make somebody else feel comfortable.
There was therapeutic medication out there that was being consciously banned from being discussed in my country. Hydroxychloroquine, azithromycin, and zinc. And there were papers and there were scientists and researchers and doctors who came out in favor of this, and those doctors got themselves fired and banned and censored because they were talking about something that has almost no side effect, but there's no profit margin in it whatsoever because it's basically a generic drug that's everywhere.
Hydroxychloroquine is a good drug if you're at risk of malaria in an area where there's no parasite resistance to it. It's also used in some autoimmune disorders, so there are good things that drug does. The simple fact is that hydroxychloroquine has no effect on COVID-19, not on the SARS-CoV-2 virus and not on the disease it provokes. So it's a very simple story. It just doesn't work against COVID-19.
I believe that hydroxychloroquine, in combination with azithromycin and zinc, that there are many, many studies, I think nearly 100, somewhere in the 65 to 100 range, by scientists and doctors all over the world that show that it is anywhere between 88 and 95% effective at, in some cases, reducing, high-risk patients from ending up in the hospital or reducing the symptoms of the disease and avoiding death.
Is not only are most folks not scientists, they don't understand the scientific process. Studies do get published after being under peer review, but the assumption is that the data is accurate. If it turns out later that those things aren't true, then those papers are retracted. It means that essentially your study was retested and you were wrong or you couldn't back up what you said with the evidence you claimed you had.
You want to know what's true. And you want to believe things that this is called confirmation bias, that we all already want to believe things that we think are true. And most people will find things on the internet that confirm their existing beliefs. For example, you could consider every COVID vaccine given in the United States as something experimental in the sense that these are authorized under an emergency use by the FDA, okay? So since December 14th up until March 14th, there have been about 109 million COVID vaccinations given in the United States. No one in that group, not a single person in that group, has died of COVID-19 since then. Why do so many people not want to believe scientific findings? And the fact is that a lot of this resistance comes from a society and a world that doesn't work for many people. There were about 255 million jobs lost in 2020 due to COVID-19. So what happens with COVID-19 is that people take their existing position in life, whatever it is, whether they have advantages or disadvantages. COVID-19, it exaggerates every problem on top of that. So if you were unsecure in your employment, you probably lost your job. So if people are not doing well, it's a sign that they can't trust something about society. Maybe they can't trust the justice system. Maybe they can't trust the police. I think in the COVID-19 case, the vaccine is well established. They're demonstrated effective and people should take them. But the suspicion that many people bring to government institutions and to societal functions, that's justified, and we should talk about that.
And the biggest outbreak of coronavirus among LA's homeless population just got even bigger.
The biggest cluster of cases on Skid Row has nearly doubled in size in just 5 days. Last Wednesday, the Union Rescue Mission had 56 people who tested positive. Today, we learned the number is now up to 97 cases. At least 2 of those people have died.
I'm Andy Bales. I'm the president and CEO of Union Rescue Mission in downtown Los Angeles, actually right in the heart of Skid Row in Los Angeles. The biggest challenge to getting to the most vulnerable is their fear. Many of the people on the streets, unfortunately, are people of color, and many of the people who are most at risk are people of color, and their fear to get the vaccine is the biggest holdup because of the misinformation. Because of historical mistreatment of people of color, especially.
Overcoming systematic racism and collective trauma will be key components in the effort to vaccinate. Now there's a full-fledged PR campaign on to remedy the situation. President Obama and several other past presidents have pledged to publicly take the vaccine in an attempt to temper fears.
That disinformation, anti-vax, it's criminal negligent homicide in the end if you've convinced somebody not to get a vaccine and they get COVID-19 and perish. I think that's the battle that caused healthcare workers the most stress. It wasn't going in and seeing fluids fly everywhere and ducking and trying to stay alive wearing a mask. It was the fact that they were doing that while people were preaching misinformation and making it like their job didn't amount to anything, wasn't worth anything. So we have to educate and encourage people and show them that it's safe and it's okay.
Researchers and lawmakers say anti-vaccination groups and COVID deniers are merging with the pro-Trump armed groups whose followers attacked the U.S. Capitol in January.
Now the Democrats are politicizing the coronavirus. You know that. Coronavirus.
He's failed in the testing and the rest, and it's a hoax, and it's going to magically disappear. That's not based on science.
We are faced with waves of disinformation on social media about the safety and efficacy of these shots.
We have to decide how we want to handle speech that is legal but harmful.
Do you acknowledge that there is disinformation being spread on your platform?
Yes, there is, and we take steps to fight it.
Vaccine hesitancy, in part fueled by dangerous misinformation, is higher among Republicans and Trump voters than other parts of the U.S. population.
It's become a huge political issue. I mean, just you can see it just by looking at which states are staying locked down, which states are not staying locked down, which states have opened up or never locked down. You know, we have red state, blue state in our country. The red states are the Republican states, and blue states are the Democratic states. When a governor of a red state opens up, people on the other side of the aisle will be very critical of that. Yeah, so you can see it's political.
Well, I would say that right now I'm politically marooned. I have lost my confidence in any party. I've lost my confidence in the government because I have a very narrow perspective. I am only looking at the regulatory agencies, EPA, HHS, CDC, FDA, and I don't think that they have the best interest of the people.
Science has been compromised. You know, when somebody says something like the science is settled, or 97% of scientists agree, they're lying. So really every person that's getting a vaccine right now is being experimented on. They're a guinea pig. Well, now you're asking me to get into the realm of one world order and conspiracy theories and things like that. But there's a lot of money in vaccines. A lot of money in vaccines.
What we've seen as of today, we are seeing very strong 6 months immunological protection from the vaccines, and that's really exciting news. So when we talk about kind of where we're at, we're still learning every day, but we haven't seen any harmful side effects that would discourage us from using it. There are forces, dark forces at work in this world that would love our community not to get vaccinated. It is harmful that our community is dying from COVID, but they're dying because of misinformation. And so yes, we have to hold our social media platforms absolutely accountable. You've got to engage and educate, but you also got to vaccinate, and those pieces of the puzzle all need to go together, which is why our partnerships directly with Facebook and YouTube and Google and others are critical, that they give us those in-kind advertising dollars with the message that these are safe vaccines and they should roll up their sleeves and get their shot. The sooner we do that, the sooner we go back to work, back to school, back to loving our loved ones and doing all the wonderful things that we did before COVID.
Well, misinformation on vaccines is dangerous, but unfortunately, it's very easy to find online.
I don't think it's the government's role to say, you can't publish this content. There is a First Amendment right to say whatever you will.
COVID deniers are busy spreading their message on social media.
This is the COVID deception, guys. They want to deceive us. They want to control us.
Facebook has pledged to reduce the ranking of pages that spread misinformation about vaccines.
Where's the line between your free speech rights and public health overall?
Well, listen, if I want to say that climbing to the top of a mountain causes cancer, that should be my right. It's lunacy to say that I shouldn't be able to say that.
The dangers of allowing people to spread lies about vaccines actually endangers all of us. And it slows our ability to stop this disease, which has already killed over 500,000 Americans.
I mean, you have to really go back to kind of the early part of the internet, the kind of masterminds who figured this stuff out. I mean, Alex Jones.
Pfizer withdraws application from India after they ban their vaccine because of it killing people and kills people and doesn't even protect them from COVID-19. And you're all day trying to hurt us and shut us down.
I think Jones really figured out the money aspect of it. Jones slapped a name and a logo on everything. You know, he said in his divorce papers that he is a performance actor. So he knows what he's doing is a performance.
95% of what we cover is looking at a news article and then, discussing it.
Well, but if you just look at an article and discuss it, it's garbage in, garbage out, right? If you haven't ascertained the veracity of that article and it's all BS and then you spend 2 hours talking about it, then you put out a bunch of misinformation.
There is a larger societal component to this story, which is we dug ourselves into this hole, and we didn't have any sort of infrastructure to teach folks how to discern fact from fiction. Social media companies, their goal is to keep you on the screen. It doesn't have to be that way, but these companies have designed it that way. We want to get a like, we want to get a friend, we want to get someone to share our post, we want to get positive messaging, and so we always go back for the dopamine rush, and it opens up like questions of where does it end?
I would start by asking about the political economy of anti-vaccination promotion. So who's driving this and why do they want to do it? Why is it that some groups or people want to drive ill health for other groups? In most places, there's an easy answer to that. Somebody wants power, they want money. So I would ask, who's funding this and why are they doing it? What is the agenda that they're promoting? Why is it that they would be associated with freedom or intellectual responsibility or freedom of inquiry or freedom of speech when what they're advocating is something that will harm people? But there is no single centralized information source that can always be relied upon to give the right answers for everyone. We don't have it and not everyone will trust it even if we did. COVID-19 it's a lens through which to view, essentially you can view all social problems. So people who have resources and trust the government, they've done relatively well. Many of the world's billionaires, the richest people, have gotten richer in COVID-19. It's been unequal like that. But the kind of me-first selfishness that we've seen increase over the last few years, that has worsened. Well, over the last few years, there have been many signs for many people that there are reasons not to trust some parts of the government. But this questioning of government authority or trust in society, that's increased dramatically in the last few years, and it's hard to get it back.
I am proud of the science and the work that we have done to vaccinate. Anti-vaxxers have an agenda too, and they don't want us to be safe and protected, and that is not going to stand in the way of us and our message and our people getting vaccinated. This is a war against COVID, and we are winning. We are part of the solution. We are ending this epidemic now.